Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, I want to talk about who is God. We have all these speculations about a God. We look at ourselves. We look at the elements that we are made out of, this skin and bone, and the things around us, and that we reap from these elements, and we build our shelter, our housing, our food. Everything about our physical being comes from this. Where did it come from? How did it come about? How did all of this come from nothing? And this is the age old complexity of man in speculation. How? Why? What? And all the stars in the sky and the infinity of it's mind boggling. So, man, he has to think in terms of, well, what if this? What is that? And then in that comes beliefs. Okay, I believe that this is what happened, or I believe this is what happened. And then we go on and we start listening to other man's belief, and they say, well, that narrative sounds really good. Uh, I kind of flow with what he's saying. So you kind of move towards that belief. And this is how our churches today are established through beliefs. Not really through realities of, but in beliefs. I believe this. I believe that. And you must do this and you must do that. And then they write up all these bylaws to govern those beliefs. And then they say, well, if you're going to be part of our society, then you have to follow these rules. You have to believe what we believe. And that's the way it is in government, in our churches, and just about everything associated with congregations of men, of mankind. And you go to one, and let's go, okay. All of this had to be made by a super being. It had to come from somewhere. You just can't make something out of nothing. Man can't. But man can take the elements that is uh, beckoned to him, that's at our disposal, and manipulate those things and create a house, food. We can take all those elements to sustain this natural body. And and then beliefs become actually becomes the reality of the believer. Okay, I believe this. This is the way it is. I'm going to stand on it no matter what. All right. Who is God? What is God? How did all this come about? When we read the Bible, we read God is a spirit. Okay, this spirit did all this stuff. Very imaginative. And then we look at men that we read of in the past, and men of ancient. And let's start with Adam, the first man. And I'm going to add, Adam was not the first man on this planet. That's very obvious because his own son went into the land of Nod and took a wife. But when you look at it in reality of spiritual terms that God is, Adam was the very first to become like God. to know this difference. He was the first man. He learned that from God himself in the garden, where God came and opened up knowledge to Adam that he did not have prior. Abraham was the same way. God came to Abraham, the same spirit, and did the same thing. Gave him a knowledge that Abraham didn't have prior to that opening of that spirit. Moses, he was down in the desert in the valley, and he was over the laws of the book until he went up to this mountain. And what happened? He met the same knowledge that Adam and Abraham learned. Mary, same spirit of mind, same knowledge was open to her. Jesus in Matthew 3:16. And Jesus is the central figure of all of this, in that he promoted a truth about God that overrides man's speculations about a God, man's speculations about a man as a God, which is actually spawned from the beliefs of ancient times of Egyptians who worship man as God. The Greek, they worship man as God. And our churches today, for the most part, worship a man as a God. But Jesus, he debunked all of that. Yeah, Jesus was about his father's business from a young age of 12. He taught the laws of that belief system of the Jews at a young age, and was rabbi teaching their laws until when? Until he reached about 30 years old. And what happened? The Spirit of God came down and lit upon that man and changed his whole being, his whole understanding, opened up a whole new knowledge for who God really is, and opened up all of his heaven in Jesus. And if you will notice, the befores, Matthew 3:16, and the afters of Matthew 3:16, he was not the same man. He was not the same person. Spiritually, he was not the same person. And ironic is the ones that he once taught as rabbi. Okay, this is the way it is. This is the God we believe in. After Matthew 3:16, when a new knowledge was opened up in Jesus from God himself, the people he was teacher of, rabbi of, are the ones who actually that revered him for his knowledge, even at a young age, are the very ones who had him crucified for blasphemy, because he went against their beliefs for God. How about yourself? Look at yourself. What do you believe? Do you believe what man has taught you about a God, about a heaven, and about everything in it? Do you actually sit in a pew and pay a preacher to hear God for you and give you those laws? Or do you do as Jesus did and step away from those laws of man, where they are actually fulfilled within you, and you became those laws? Love God, love man, love thy neighbor as thyself. The 10 Commandments. The first 4 deal with man's relationship with God. The last 6 deal with man's relationship to man. Jesus took those 10 laws and reduced them down to 2. Love God, love man as thyself. Okay, I can't quote the exact scripture right off the top of my head, I forgot. But Jesus said, and this is not verbatim, maybe it is, I don't know. Jesus says, in that day you shall ask me nothing, but you shall go to the Father for yourself, and he will give it you. Does that preacher in the pulpit give it you? Are you confined to what he believes? Or do you hear from God himself? Okay, this brings us down to a point of who is God. Jesus was clear that God's not a man. Jesus was very clear to Thomas. Spirit, and God is a spirit, does not have flesh and bone as you see me, but man in their beliefs, they worship that man as a god. You know why? They seek the sensational. They read these stories of a man walking on the water, and they don't see the reality in the actual message in that story. He walked on that storm. Yeah. He walked on the storms of life. Those out in the boat that's still in that storm, they suffered the consequences of the storm. They didn't know how to walk on it. Look at Moses parting this sea, drowning a whole army of adversary. The message is, what's the message in it? You can close that sea behind you and destroy all those beliefs, all that stuff that would be an adversary against who you are. Okay, who are you? Who is God? Who is the God that is supposed to be in you as it was in Adam, Abraham, Moses, Mary, Jesus, 120 in an upper room? They all had the same knowledge from the same Spirit. They all received it. Have you? Ask yourself, have you? Are you like these became? Or are you still confined to man's laws for belief? Do you walk as he walked in his same light? Do you have the same mind be in you who was in Christ Jesus? And mind you, spirit denotes our mind. It is who we are. It's the thinking part of us. It is our disposition. It is not what we believe, but it is who we are. You can believe anything about a God. Jim Jones, David Koresh, Warren Jeffs, they had beliefs about a God. And they duped the gullible into following their beliefs. And it's no different today from all our different denominations. One of them will stand in the pulpit and says, give me your 10%, and given it shall be given unto you 100 times over what you put in. They don't look at it in the spiritual terms. They look at it in physical terms, monetary terms. If they looked at it in the spiritual, you give out love, you're going to receive love back 100 times more than what you give out. It is so mixed up to me in our religious beliefs. It can be so simple, yet they make it so complicated. Why? Greed of man, the need to have power over the other. The streets of the world today, throwing bricks and bombs and burning cars and trafficking people, young people. I saw a thing the other day where there were 200 and something children who they took body parts off of and sold them to people in another country. That's just despicable. There's no need in it. Wouldn't it be a beautiful world if everybody would walk up to their brother and say, hey man, I love you. Is there anything I can help you with? Are you having difficulty with something? Let me help you out. We wouldn't have Russia fighting against Ukraine. We wouldn't have the Chinese against this. We wouldn't have this against this. We wouldn't have Venezuela against this, or Iran or Iraq or whoever, if they would just come together and say, is there something that I can do for you? Let's exchange what we have. Let's share what we have. Wouldn't it be a wonderful world? Even our own allies, I don't understand anymore. This European Union actually has become enemies of the United States. Who tries to give what we have? And I don't get it. They're not appreciative of. They act like we're trying to take over the world or something. That's not it. They're seeing in a whole different light from what I see happening. Yes, the United States is enforcing laws. Why? Because the guy over there is breaking those laws and hurting people. Not just us, not just the United States, but hurting people in general. So we have no alternative but to enforce the laws, to protect those who are of love. So in my ending for this, who are you? Do you have that same knowledge of God that Adam received, Abraham, Moses, Jesus received in Matthew 3:16? Jesus said, in that day ye shall ask me nothing but go to the Father for yourself, and he will give it you. If you can't believe what I say, watch what I do. In those actions is the truth. I can say anything about God, but you watch what he does, and that will be the proof in who that person is. Who are you? Are you what you say you are? Or does your actions show it? I'll leave that with you. Think about it. Love you guys. Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.